The diner smelled faintly of burnt coffee and sizzling bacon, the kind of scent that clung to your clothes even hours after you left. Ethan Cole sat hunched in the corner booth, his little girl Lily across from him, swinging her legs in rhythm against the vinyl seat. The place wasn't glamorous, but the $3.99 breakfast special meant they could stretch one meal between them and maybe, just maybe, make it until the end of the week without dipping into the coins Ethan had scraped from the couch cushions that morning. Ethan's hands were rough, scarred with the marks of years spent twisting wrenches and gripping steering wheels harder than most men ever had. But no one in this small town knew that. To them, he was just another struggling single dad doing odd jobs to keep food on the table. NASCAR, the roaring crowds, the thunder of engines, that was a lifetime ago, and it was a life he no longer spoke of. The waitress poured more coffee into Ethan's chipped mug. He nodded politely, though his mind wasn't on the drink. His thoughts were on Lilia, her shoes too tight, her backpack fraying at the edges, and the way she stared longingly at the other kids in school who didn't have to worry about things like whether their dad could afford lunch tomorrow. Life had a way of humbling even the strongest men. Once, Ethan had been called Lightning Cole, a driver so fearless that commentators swore he had ice in his veins. But tragedy had struck fast and mercilessly. The crash that nearly took his life had cost him more than broken bones. It had taken his wife, his career, and his future. She hadn't survived the accident, and though Ethan lived, he had never forgiven himself. NASCAR had been left behind, and with it, the man he used to be. It was Lily's laughter that tethered him to this world, the single light that kept him from drifting into the darkness that had haunted him ever since. She deserved better. That thought alone got him out of bed every morning. The bell above the diner door jingled. A woman in a tailored suit walked in, shaking the rain from her umbrella. Her heels clicked across the linoleum floor as she made her way to the counter. Her presence seemed out of place in this modest little town. A BMW key fob dangling from her manicured fingers. She ordered quickly, glancing at her phone between words, clearly irritated about something. When she stepped back outside a few minutes later, the sound of her car engine sputtering carried into the diner. Ethan didn't look at first. He was used to other people's problems not being his, but Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, her big brown eyes wide, "that lady looks like she needs help." Ethan sighed, the kind of sigh that carried both weariness and reluctant duty. "Stay here, Bug," he murmured, sliding out of the booth. Outside, the woman was sitting in the driver's seat of her BMW, slamming the steering wheel in frustration. The car wouldn't start. "Mind if I take a look?" Ethan asked, his voice steady but low. She looked up, startled, then narrowed her eyes. "You know anything about German engines?" Ethan managed a small smile. "I know a thing or two about cars." She hesitated, then stepped aside. Ethan rolled up his sleeves and leaned under the hood. Within minutes, his hands moved with practice, checking connections, tightening clamps, coaxing life back into the machine. It wasn't long before the engine roared again. The woman's eyes widened. "I've been trying for an hour." "How did you?" "Just needed the right touch," Ethan said, wiping his hands on his jeans. She tilted her head, studying him. "What do I owe you?" Ethan shook his head. "Don't worry about it." But Lily, who had slipped outside to stand by his leg, piped up. "We haven't eaten lunch yet," she said innocently. The woman glanced between father and daughter, something soft flickering in her gaze. "How about I buy you both a meal?" "Least I can do." Ethan started to protest, pride rising in his chest, but Lily's hopeful face undid him. He nodded slowly. "That'd be kind." "Thank you." At the diner counter, they ate together. The woman introduced herself as Claire Donovan, a corporate executive visiting town for a business deal. She asked about Ethan, about his work, and though he tried to keep his answers vague, she noticed his hands, the calluses, the scars, the way he handled his fork with the ease of someone used to gripping something far more powerful. "You ever race?" she asked suddenly. Ethan froze, the fork halfway to his mouth. "Why do you ask?" "Because I've been to NASCAR events. My dad was a fan." "The way you move a broken bar, I don't know. You remind me of someone." Ethan forced a laugh. "Just fixed cars here and there. Nothing fancy." But Claire wasn't convinced. Over the next few weeks, she kept finding reasons to stop by the diner, or to bring her car around for small issues. Each time, Ethan fixed them without complaint, and Lily grew more attached to her, eager for the warmth Claire seemed to bring into their quiet lives. Slowly, Claire learned pieces of the truth that Ethan had once been a man everyone knew, a name whispered in racing circles, a driver whose career had ended too soon. The turning point came on a Saturday afternoon when Claire invited them to a charity race event. She handed Ethan 2 tickets. "Just come." For Lily, she should see what her dad can do. Ethan tried to refuse, but Lily's eyes lit up in a way he hadn't seen in years. That look broke through his walls. The charity event was held at a small track, nothing compared to Daytona or Talladega, but the roar of the engines still stirred something deep inside Ethan. The announcer, spotting him in the stands, blinked twice before stammering into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, a broken bar, is that a question mark? Could it be lightning Cole?" Whispers rippled through the crowd, then cheers. The lost legend had returned. Ethan wanted to disappear, but Lily's hand squeezed his, her little voice trembling with pride. "Daddy, that's you. You're lightning Cole." Claire leaned close, her voice steady. "Maybe it's time people remembered who you are." The organizers begged him to do a lap in one of the cars. At first, he refused. The memories of the crash, the loss of his wife, the guilt to it all flooded back. But when Lily looked up at him with tears brimming in her eyes, he knew he couldn't keep running. He strapped into the driver's seat, the familiar weight of the helmet pressing down on him. The engine roared beneath him like an old friend. As he took the car onto the track, the world blurred into a tunnel of speed and adrenaline. For the first time in years, he felt alive. The lap was flawless, smooth, powerful, graceful. When he crossed the line, the crowd erupted, chanting his name. Ethan Cole wasn't just a mechanic. He wasn't just a struggling dad. He was a legend. Back in the pit, Lily threw herself into his arms. "I'm so proud of you, Daddy." Tears stung his eyes. "I did it for you, Bug. Always for you." Claire watched them, her heart swelling. She knew this man wasn't just a ghost of the past. He was a father who would sacrifice everything for his child, and in doing so, he had found himself again. Word spread quickly. Sponsors came calling, reporters begged for interviews, and fans lined up to see the man who had disappeared from the sport only to return with more humility and heart than ever before. Ethan didn't chase fame this time. He didn't need it. But he allowed enough back into his life to ensure Lily would never have to go without again. Claire stayed by their side, not as a corporate executive, but as a friend, and maybe maybe something more. Together, they built a new life where the past didn't define them but guided them toward a future filled with kindness, second chances, and the simple power of humanity. And in that small-town diner, where it had all begun, Ethan often sat with Lily and Claire, smiling at the ordinary miracle of a meal shared, knowing that sometimes, the greatest victories weren't won on the track but in the quiet, selfless choices made for love.